December 31, 1962, 11:45 p.m. As Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra stepped out of their luxury limousine, no one knew that in 15 minutes they would launch the biggest charity campaign in American history. That night, Dean and Frank's plan was simple. New Year's celebration at the Sands Hotel, big money, entertainment with famous friends. But taking the wrong road changed everything. The limousine stopped in front of St. Mary's Children's Hospital, would lead two legends to the most important decision of their lives. And that decision would save millions of children's lives. Most importantly, young journalist Michael Romano witnessed this moment by chance. And what he wrote mobilized all of America. This isn't a simple charity story. This is the tale of how two legends accidentally became America's heart. How a 15-minute visit transformed into a $50 million donation campaign. And it all started completely by accident. To understand that night, you need to know Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra's situation in 1962. Both were at the peak of their careers. 45-year-old Dean was one of America's most beloved singers. Frank, at 47, continued to hold the title of Music King. Together with the Rat Pack, they had conquered Las Vegas. But both had poverty in their childhood. Dean grew up in Steubenville, Frank in Hoboken. Both had experienced the pain of being unable to see a doctor when they were sick children. This shared trauma would create a miracle that night. December 31, 1962, 9 p.m., Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra set off from Beverly Hills toward Las Vegas. The plan was special New Year's show at the Sands Hotel, celebration with the Rat Pack crew, ending the night with champagne and gambling. Their driver Tony Torino knew the route, Interstate 15, direct road to Las Vegas. It would take 4 hours. They'd arrive before midnight. But Dean's mind was elsewhere. A letter he had received that week was bothering him. The letter came from St. Mary's Children's Hospital. 8-year-old Sarah Chen had written to Dean. "Dear Mr. Martin, my mother showed me you singing. You sing very beautifully. I am a sick child and I live in the hospital. Your songs make me happy. If you ever come here, I would be very happy. Could you also say hello to Mr. Sinatra? With love, Sarah." Dean had read this letter to Frank. Frank's eyes had welled up. This child was crying while writing the letter. Frank had said, "Look, there's an ink stain." That night, while driving to Las Vegas, both were talking about Sarah's letter. "Frank, what if we stopped by St. Mary's Hospital?" Dean said. Frank was surprised. "Now, Dean, we have a show in Las Vegas. Just 10 minutes. We'll quickly say hello." Frank hesitated. Thousands of people were waiting at the Sands Hotel. There was big money at stake. But then he thought about Sarah's letter. "Okay," Frank said. "But 10 minutes." Tony Torino changed the route. They headed toward East Los Angeles. 11:35 p.m. They arrived in front of St. Mary's Children's Hospital. The hospital was old and tired. Christmas lights were hung, but most weren't working. Dean and Frank got out of the car. "Bosses, I'll wait here," Tony said. The two walked toward the hospital entrance. At that moment, young journalist Michael Romano saw them from his car parked across the street. Michael was a 24-year-old reporter who had just started working at the Los Angeles Times. He was the child of Italian immigrant parents and had lived through a poor childhood himself. While studying journalism, he worked night shifts and sent money to his family. That night, Michael was following another story. There was a robbery case in East Los Angeles. But when he saw Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra entering a children's hospital near midnight, he was shocked. "What's this?" Michael said to himself. "What are these guys doing here when they could be making millions in Las Vegas?" He took out his camera and began carefully documenting. His instincts told him this was a big story. At the hospital entrance, night shift nurse Barbara Wright nearly fainted when she saw Dean and Frank. "My God, you're Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra." "Hello," Dean said. "We're looking for Sarah Chen. Is she staying here?" Barbara's eyes filled with tears. "Sarah, she's very sick, blood cancer. Her family plays your songs for her every day. Can we see her?" Frank asked. "Of course, but she's sleeping now. And the other children too. Other children. Dean asked. There are 30 sick children on this floor. Most will spend New Year's here. Their families either didn't exist or couldn't visit them. Dean and Frank looked at each other. Can we see all of them? Frank asked. Barbara was surprised. All of them. If it's appropriate, Dean. Barbara took them to the third floor. The pediatric cancer unit. When they entered the first room, they saw Sarah Chen. Thin, pale. But her eyes lit up when she saw Dean. Mr. Martin. Is it really you? Dean sat beside the bed. Yes, little lady. Thank you for your letter. Miss Sinatra came too, Sarah whispered excitedly. Frank approached. Hello, princess. How are you? I'm very good now. Are you really here? Dean felt his eyes filling. This child was dying, but she was happy. Sarah, can we sing for you? Sarah's eyes grew wide. Really? Dean started singing. That's Amor. And Frank harmonized with Dean. Sarah laughed and clapped. At that moment, sounds started coming from other rooms. Other children had woken up. Let's see the others too, Frank said. For the next 2 hours, Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra visited every child in the hospital. 6-year-old Tommy had a brain tumor. His eyes were big and innocent. His head wrapped in bandages. Dean sang for him. Tommy laughed and said, Mr. Martin, this song is like a kick in my head too. Dean's eyes filled with tears. 9-year-old Maria had heart disease. She had trouble breathing but smiled when she saw Frank. Frank sang for her and said, You'll fly to the moon, beautiful girl, before all of us. 12-year-old Robert had blood cancer. He had become very thin but knew Dean's songs by heart. He sang with Dean. No sound came out but his lips were moving. 7-year-old Jennifer had bone cancer. Her leg had been amputated, but her spirit wasn't broken. Frank told her about the days she would dance and sang for her. The hardest moment was when they entered 5-year-old David's room. The child was in a coma. His mother sat beside him, crying. He loves Dean Martin very much, the mother said. When he hears your song on TV, he smiles. Dean touched David's hand and quietly said. At that moment, David's fingers moved slightly. Did you see? The mother whispered. He hears you. Frank and Dean were crying. The same scene in every room. Sick children. Shining eyes. Unforgettable moments. In the hospital corridors, Michael Romano was secretly taking photographs. He was documenting those moments. 2 you was or I am. Dean and Frank had visited 30 children. We should go to Las Vegas, Frank said. We missed the show. I don't care, Dean replied. This was more important. Looking at it now, I think we're in the right place now. On their way back to the car, Barbara stopped them. Mr. Martin, Mr. Sinatra, what you did for these children. What did we do? Dean said. We just said hello. You gave them hope. Most of these children will die here. But tonight they felt like stars. Frank's eyes filled with tears. Barbara, what does this hospital need? Everything. Money, equipment, medicine. We're a charity hospital. Government support is very little. Dean and Frank looked at each other. What can we do? Dean asked. You're famous. If you support this hospital, people will follow you. On their way back to the car, Dean and Frank were making their plans. Frank, we need to do something for these children. I agree. But what? A charity concert. Something big. We'll include all of the Rat Pack. Perfect idea. The next morning, Michael Romano went to the Los Angeles Times editor. Boss, we need to write this story, Michael said, and showed the photographs. Photographs of Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra visiting sick children. Michael, this is incredible, the editor said. Front page material. January 2, 1963 morning. Los Angeles Times headline. Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra secretly visited sick children. Michael Romano's article. On the night of December 31, instead of making big money in Las Vegas, Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra spent time with sick children at St. Mary's Children's Hospital. They sang for 30 children, fighting blood cancer, brain tumors, heart disease, and chatted with them. This visit wasn't planned. It happened spontaneously. Two superstars risked their own careers for the children's happiness. The article had a bomb effect in America. It became news on national television. That day, St. Mary's Hospital received hundreds of phone calls. People wanted to donate. Hospital director Dr. Patricia Williams was in amazement. "I've been working at this hospital for 30 years, she said. "I've never seen such interest." On the first day, the hospital received $50,000 in donations. On the second day, 100. On the third day, big companies started calling. Big corporations offered to build new pediatric units. Film studios proposed organizing special screenings for the hospital. Most interestingly, other celebrities also wanted to visit the hospital. Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, Cary Grant, all wanted to see St. Mary's. But Dean and Frank stopped them. "This isn't our show," Dean said. "This is about the children." Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra immediately held a press conference. "We're organizing a major charity event for St. Mary's Children's Hospital," Dean announced. "All proceeds will go to the hospital. The Rat Pack will participate completely," Frank added. "Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, Joey Bishop will all come." Date: February 15th. Location: Hollywood Bowl. Tickets $100. But any amount of donation is welcome. Media frenzy began. The story became national news. The Ed Sullivan Show invited them. They appeared on The Tonight Show. Michael Romano's story was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. February 15th, 1963. Hollywood Bowl. 17,000 sold-out crowd. Celebrities, politicians, ordinary people. Dean, Frank, Sammy, Peter, Joey. The complete Rat Pack was on stage. Special guests: Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor, Cary Grant. The show lasted 4 hours. Incredible performances. The most emotional moment: Sarah Chen and other St. Mary's children were brought on stage. Dean sang his song as a duet with Sarah. 17,000 people cried. Money raised that night $2.3 million. But the real miracle began after the show. Michael Romano's original story was republished throughout America. Hundreds of hospitals received similar donations. The Sinatra Martin Children's Aid Foundation was established. Over the next 10 years, the foundation raised $50 million. Thousands of children's lives were saved. New medical equipment, research support, hospital improvements. Sarah Chen's blood cancer treatment was completed. She survived and became a nurse. Years later, Sarah said, "Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra didn't just save my life. They saved thousands of children's lives." Michael Romano won the Pulitzer Prize and specialized in children's health. His story wasn't just news. It was the beginning of a movement. After Michael's article was published, similar stories began appearing throughout America. Celebrities started visiting hospitals, organizing charity campaigns. This phenomenon, called the Romano effect, began a new era of celebrity philanthropy. Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Nat King Cole, all began making similar visits. But the biggest impact was on the children. Sarah Chen not only survived but studied medicine and became a pediatric cancer specialist. That night, Dean and Frank didn't just save me, Sarah said. Years later, that night they showed me I could realize my dreams. Tommy recovered after brain tumor surgery and became a musician. Maria had a heart transplant and became a dance teacher. Robert beat blood cancer and became a doctor. The most miraculous recovery was David's. The child who heard Dean's song while in a coma that night woke up 2 weeks later. Brain damage was expected,
But David developed completely normally. Doctors can't explain it, David's mother said. But I know. That night Dean Martin's voice called him back. Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra's accidental visit changed American charity history. Because sometimes the greatest miracles come from unplanned moments. Two superstars could have made big money in Las Vegas that night. Instead, they chose compassion. And that choice changed millions of lives. This story shows that true greatness lies not in fame or money, but in helping others. Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, and Michael Romano proved that one night's kindness can create impact for decades. December 3rd. Wrong road, right decision. Sometimes the greatest journeys begin with wrong turns. And sometimes the greatest stories are discovered accidentally by journalists. Michael Romano was following another story that night, but what he found was much more important: the power of humanity. Dean and Frank didn't just touch the children's hearts that night, they touched America's heart. And America responded $50 million. Thousands of saved lives. New hope for sick children. All because two friends took the wrong road and did the right thing. This is why the St. Mary's visit wasn't just a celebrity charity event. This is the perfect example of the power of compassion, journalism, and human kindness. And this story continues. Sarah Chen is 67 years old today, still working as a pediatric doctor. Every December 31st, she works a shift at the hospital, in what she calls her special Dean and Frank night duty. What I learned that night, Sarah says, is how powerful hope is. Two famous men didn't just sing to us, they gave us life. Michael Romano is 85 years old today, writing books about children's rights. The photographs he took that night still hang on his wall. The greatest story I wrote in my career, says Mike, because this wasn't just news. This was proof of humanity. And Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra both characterized that night as their most important performance throughout their lives. I could have made millions in Las Vegas, Dean said years later. But those children's smiles were priceless. On the night of December 31, 1962, two celebrities who took the wrong road gave America the most valuable gift: hope. And sometimes the greatest stories are born from the simplest moments.